Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Overwatch Tranquility. We have a fantastic game for you tonight as we head into the semifinals of the Discord tier preseason tournament. I am Bard, and I am joined today by Rebel Fox. How are you doing, Rebel?
Doing fantastic. Happy to be here. Happy to get a chance to these two teams. Phenomenal little matchup we've got going on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a Battalion, a newer team to the Discord tier, playing against the Heckin Habaneros, which is a bit of a established team within the spicy organization, with the Holy Jalapenos and the Ghostly Peppers making up their slower seed and higher seed tier teams, respectively. And I think we're gonna have a pretty good match out of us today.
I'm expecting so, especially because both these teams they come into this and they're undefeated entirely in match score as well. I know one of these teams got a bye coming. If I recall, Habaneros ended up with a bye before anything else. But still, coming in without a single match loss between the two teams is really so. I'm expecting, as you said before, maybe some spice to come out from these two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a spicy game, and let's hope that the heat is not too much for Battalion to handle because I want this one to go the distance. And both of these teams are going to be bringing in some familiar faces to people who watch a lot of Tranquility or even play within the community itself. We've got on the Heckin' Habaneros, Mr. Trippy Cow and Waffle Man pulling up the DPS. Chimanzi, Crew, Legolots, and Mix Ready will be filling in the rest of that roster with a lot of notable players from previous seasons. We also on Battalion have Sip and Fanta, formerly known as Boring, MB Compton, PDK Kid, Mudkip, Capital, and Sushi. And those are rosters that are just jam packed full of former Trank players.
Yeah, it's crazy because I mean, I have really have never had experience for the most part within Tranquility League. You're talking about these players, and I'm interested to learn a little bit about them. Maybe you can highlight at least one, two players on one of these rosters for me to keep a look at. Because of course I'm new. I'm sure some of the viewers might be interested in that kind of thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say for Heckin' Habaneros, it's going to be important to keep an eye on Mr. Trippy Cow and Waffle Man. Both of them are coming off of a hot season in Harmony tier last season, both playing for Boop, both being those real DPS superstars. I believe both actually being nominated for the DPS MVP role. Mr. Trippy Cow taking a trip down memory lane and actually playing tank this season. He started off in Trank as a tank player, also on Boop in season 3. So it's going to be interesting to see how he readjusts back into that tank role after playing DPS for an entire season.
Absolutely, and then I mean, you're talking about that coming between the two roles is always an interesting thing to see because you find somebody high skill. As you said, he came out as just this absolutely monstrous DPS player. We got to see how it translates to the tank role, and obviously they've been winning with it. So clearly, I'm excited now to see what it looks like when you get somebody at such a high level of DPS swapping onto a different role like tank.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. He's got a really nasty Reinhardt, but I would not put it past him to have a very dangerous Orisa as well. And then over on Battalion, I would be remiss if I did not lead you to the PDK kid himself, the reformed, in his words, Junkrat one trick, coming in here playing DPS, and I expect him to be styling on some of these kids here. He's going to be joined by Mudkip on the DPS, and I think that those two as a DPS duo are going to be really important to watch, especially as we head into this first map of Nepal.
Super excited to see how that one runs. Actually, when I was writing notes trying to find players and find pools as much as I could, the only person who I found absolutely no information on was PDK. And so you're talking about him being a reformed at one trick. I'm excited to see what he brings out in that particular case.
Yeah, absolutely. He's incredibly well known actually within Overwatch Tranquility because of the Junkrat, which I believe he established in season 3 of Tranquility as kind of a meme in and of himself, just with that Junkrat pick. But he is incredibly dangerous on the DPS and actually has played in all three
Statistically
roles in
speaking,
his
I
time,
usually
all
get
three
most of the
tiers in
messages
his
back
time
without replying.
in
This time
Trank.
here.
Absolutely. Excited to see a player of his caliber come out here on a day like today, especially for one of my first times working in Tranquility. Getting to cast somebody so renowned among the scene is a great honor to be quite honest.
Yeah, and we're gonna see how these teams prepare here. Looks like almost mirror comps, exactly mirror comps, running hard meta with the Orisa, Sigma, Ashe, Genji, Bap, Brig. Now, what do these comps bring that makes them so strong in this meta?
Genji right now, I think is so insanely strong just because of the way they buffed him. All of the ability to stack that ultimate, it's one of the most dangerous in the game. And when they put down that extended range from his secondary fire, it made it so easy to stack that ultimate. So I'm expecting that to come out here really
Ooh.
quickly. A nice little PDK.
Absolutely. Waffleman and Mudkip taking trades on this Genji, both taking out the enemy team's Ashe. And now, as they push in here, this is going to be a very dangerous go of it. And now Waffleman on the Genji getting another one on the Sushi's Brig. That Brig pick is so vital in these fights as they take down the Immortality field committed by Capital as well. And now Capital dropping low. The Doomfist now coming out for PDK Kid, deciding that the Ashe is not the option. And him and Mudkip are going to start cleaning up. Waffleman and Mix Ready taken down, and the point still hasn't been capped for either team as Chim and Mr. Trippy Cow, the man himself that we were talking about earlier, are going to finish off that fight with the cleanup.
Yeah, they hold so solid on the side of the Habaneros there with Lego Lots and Mix Ready being able to hold that back corner and able to get that pick onto the enemy Brig means once that support's gone, there's so much to work through on the opposition. Not to mention, PDK, he had died early on in that fight going down as Ashe switches to Doomfist to get back to point, goes down a second time. Now he's on the fair, doesn't have any of that ult charge to work with.
Yes, and now the Gravitic Flux already being committed by Chimanzi, building that so fast, and the Immortality field is forced to be used. PDK Kid swapping over to the Pharaoh, but gets taken down. Waffleman with three! Three out of Waffleman with that insane Dragon Blade, and he gets a fourth just cleaning up Sip and Fanta, and Mixready's gonna help him out on that Brigida, but it looks like Waffleman really showing his stuff in the Discord tier with this Genji on DPS.
Throwing out that Gravitic Flux early on, it forced them out of it so heavily that it's such an easy cleanup there for Waffleman. It's a little bit disjointed on the attack coming in from Battalion and Habanero. They're snowballing the heck out of this map right now.
Absolutely, and as much as I, as a Pharah main, love seeing the Pharah being pulled out here by PDK Kid, it does become questionable when your front line is being taken down so heavily by this Genji, and especially when the Ashe on the enemy team is doing so much work. Crew just keeping PDK Kid honest as they engage here, taking him down, and the Gravitic Flux is going to be committed for the side of the Habaneros, but it's not going to be enough. Sorry, for the side of Battalion, but it's not going to be enough as the Habaneros are just fully settled in onto this point here. And now with the Orisa ultimate coming out here, that extra damage for Waffleman is going to let him take out Sushi. And now they push in, getting even more aggressive. And Mr. Trippy Cow taking on Sipping Fanta, and Waffleman and Crew are going to be cleaning up. Mudkip manages to trade out onto Crew on that Ashe, but now Waffleman just going to commit that blade to try and clean up here. He takes down Capital, and now there's no one left alive to contest on the side of Battalion, and that's going to be a quick first map for the Heckin Habaneros.
Running PDK onto the likes of multiple different champions, especially the Pharah, is great if you can get pressure into that back corner, but unfortunately they weren't able to win the ground game because they don't have the Pharah, and he was getting pressured off by CR3 in that Ashe pick, just pushing him completely out of the fight the entire time. Not to mention Mudkip not able to keep up even close to what Waffleman was doing on the Genji on that first map.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're gonna run the Pharah there, you have to make sure that you're using it to win that shield war. But PDK Kid just being forced to play so passive because of the pressure of Crew is not able to get any value out of that Pharah, and it just leads to a clean sweep with Waffleman dominating the front lines.
We're actually getting a little bit of a switch here. So PDK is instead going to opt for the McCree on this one, which in this shorter space isn't really bad. They're running Genji on Mudkip once again, and I don't think again he's better than something like Waffleman, but I'm really interested to see what the McCree can do as opposed to the Ashe, because in the shorter space around this bottom platform, and especially around the entrances to both sides, there could be some real value in having McCree here.
Absolutely, and that stun can be so good. Oh, and Compton trying to get sneaky in the backline for the boob kills, but he's not going to get anything. He does actually get a ton of disrupt as he charges in there, and Mudkip is going to go in with him, getting some serious damage onto Legolots and managing to take him down. And now Battalion looking better than they did for the entirety of the last point there, as Mudkip's going to push towards the point as PDK Kid follows up with him and takes down Chimanzi. Capital taking down Waffleman, and it is now a clean fight for the side of Battalion. They've capped the point, and Mudkip looking so much stronger on Genji this round than he did last round.
And we see the swap coming out from the side of Battalion, where last time they both tried to play this sort of aggressive combo a bunker type position where you're sitting back in a corner. Here we see that from Habaneros a second time where you've got things like the Ash, but then when you bring in McCree, you bring in something like the ring ball, you can get far more aggressive with that flank. And I think Compton did a lot more work in that fight to cause a lot of that disrupt, to force them out of position, and that led to Heckin Habaneros losing the pressure they had on the map.
Absolutely, and now Compton, he's taking so much pressure here just by existing in this backline. He's forcing Chimanzi to not play in the front with his team, and he is going to get booped, taken off the map by Chimanzi's primary fire, and that is so unfortunate, but the ult advantage clearly in the favor of Battalion here. Oh, Sip and Fanta is going to even that out, taking Crew down with that halt, but it's not going to matter now. The BAP shield's going to be used, but Mixed Ray takes down PDK Kid, and it looks like Battalion are actually in a poor position here to re-engage. The Immortality Field is going to be used, though, and it's going to shut down Waffleman's Blade as Mudkip is going to be able to put the damage in. The Flux being committed now by Chimanzi to try and secure this fight for the Heckin Habaneros. As Mudkip commits the Blade, he gets one. He's going to get two with the help of Sushi, and Battalion, after a long, drawn-out fight, after losing the point, are going to be able to win it and turn it back around in their favor.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of this fight, Heckin Habaneros, they were kind of down in terms of ult charge, but they got a couple of key ultimates really quickly and used them to gain momentum, but they just got stopped short from all of the ultimates coming up all at once from Battalion. So they recapped the point, and now they're slowly starting to get up once again. PDK has also got the ultimate here to shove them off and potentially pull some wind out of the sails if they get going.
Absolutely, and now I'm not sure I like this. They're pushing into this lower ground, trying to take the position here, and now MP Compton is going to be able to just push behind them. The Deadeye is going to be committed by PDK Kid to put some shield pressure down, and he does break Chimanzi's Sigma shield here as Waffleman tries to play around to the back, has to use the deflect early. Chimanzi takes down Sushi, though. Waffleman just making enough room for those DPS to push forward with his team. MD Compton, though, is going to take him down to trade, but Crew gets PDK Kid, and it's not going to matter. Crew, though, getting taken down. MD Compton trying to win this for his team single-handedly. He commits the minefield, and that's so much damage as Legalots goes down, and now Battalion have put themselves in a position to win another what looks like lost fight, and they've won this, and they've brought this map to a 1-1.
Somehow it is, they go back to bunker composition from the type of Habanero, where they're trying to sit in that short space. They're trying to win the fight with the likes of Regrita and everything else that they've got, and they weren't able to recap the point. They always had somebody transitioning on the side of Battalion, and eventually their momentum just carries them through the back end of that fight. We're tied on 1-1 here on Nepal.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We're coming into Village now, and as expected, both of these teams are going to be pulling out the Reinhardt. This is a much more brawly map for them. Crew looking like he wants to stay. Both teams pulling out the Rein Orisa double shield. Crew looking like he wants to stay on the McCree, and PDK Kid pulling out the Reaper, which could indicate the style that each of these teams wants to play on the point.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see actually slips out here. We do see them switch at the last second for it, and it's going to be the Reaper versus the likes of McCree. Both of them do like to be up close and personal, but a little bit better shield pressure, especially when you're in that up close and quarters personal space here with the Reaper. So I'm interested to see how PDK can try to win this interior point on this champion.
Yeah, Waffleman committing the first wall, but immediately being traded out by Mudkip to try and push in here. Sip and Fanta gets the first pick onto Trippy Cow, and that is a bit of an error. I think Trippy getting a little too aggressive there, and now the damage coming out without that Reinhardt is going to massively favor the side of Battalion, and Sip and Fanta, formerly known as Mooring, is going to be putting in so much damage on that Reinhardt while PDK dominates that front line.
Yeah, Mudkip dropped that ice wall right behind them, completely cut off any sort of escape. A little bit too far in goes Heckin Habaneros, and they get punished so hard for it.
And now this time we see Heckin Habaneros swapping over to the Pharah.
Yeah, this time you'll have a little bit more space and a little bit more angle to work with actually on this map. We'll see if they can actually get pressure, because last time they ran this on map number 1, they weren't able to. Oh, actually, my apologies. Heckin Habaneros kind of replicate what they had.
The flank damage coming out from Waffleman there is going to allow them to get 2 quick picks. The Habaneros now in the fight, in the advantage. Waffleman taking down Sip and Fanta, committing that shatter to try and win that fight, but it is too late, and that Pharah is going to be much more successful for the Habaneros than it was for Battalion in map 1.
Well flanked from Waffleman. Again, when you have all those angles to come in from, you have the ability to do that kind of thing, and it didn't look like like whatsoever Battalion was expecting that kind of flank. And even worse, they burnt a number of resources just trying to keep their hold on that point. And you look at the ult charge here from the side of the Habaneros, they're so much better up. They've got 2 up, and they've got 2, 3 right on the brink as well. And so it's going to be difficult here for the side of Battalion to recap this point very easily.
Now the Rhine Sigma going to be coming out from sorry, the Orisa Sigma going to be coming out from Battalion here. Obviously, MB Compton wanting to use that utility that Sigma provides to push in here and to prevent the Pharah from getting anything. Crew, though, taking on Sib and Fanta early, and now Mr. Trippy Cow, along with Chimanzi, can get really aggressive here on this point without that Brigida to worry about for that extra healing and that extra damage. Now MB Compton is going to be just in a very bad position here as him and his Baptiste in Capital are going to just be farmed by the Heckin Habaneros, who win another fight.
Yeah, punished on the way in right there by the likes of the Orisa ultimate. And once again, they were able to hold both utility, all the ultimates all they had on their team. And they almost have, once again, they're going to have the Mercy ultimate as well. So only Chimans needs to pull that because they're split. They're just a little bit too far pushed up from Battalion on one of their carries, led to them actually going down ahead of time. And now Orisa gets picked too.
Oh, that is so unfortunate for Fanta here, trying to push in with his team, trying to take those off angles, and just gets absolutely punished. And the flashbang barrage combo is going to be so effective, taking down 2, and now Heckin Habaneros are looking unstoppable on this point once they've bunkered in with that Pharah.
It's kind of what they've been doing the whole time is they haven't been able to really set up a bunker, at least on map 2. They were struggling to do so, but now they're able to do it so easily. They are down a couple of ultimates, but they're in overtime. They're going to try to push this off.
Oh, Mudkip and Sushi getting the first picks there, and MB Compton's managing to take this down. Perhaps the ball was the solution, but it's not going to matter. The ult advantage is just going to favor the side of the Heckin Habaneros, and as promising as the beginning of that fight looked, it is already over for Battalion, and Heckin Habaneros are going to take the first map of Nepal.
What an exceptionally close match there, a little bit back and forth. Maps went phenomenal in map 3, of course, when they set the bunker, when they switch over to the Farah. It worked so well for them, able to get her on multiple flanks. And even in that last fight, they traded a couple of times. They were able to get the revive up onto the likes of their McCree. This led to them winning their composition.
Yeah, I like the McCree there in theory, and I think it works out much better on Sanctum with that kind of closer in map setup. You can
Mhm,
brawl a lot more. You get a lot more value out of that flashbang and out of that stun. But once they pull out the Pharah on Village, I
mhm.
don't think McCree is quite enough to actually shut it down. And I would have preferred to see, I think, the Ashe there, or even potentially. We know PDK Kid is a really good projectile player. Potentially, it could have been really good to see him play the Pharah.
Yeah, I would have been interested to see just like the straight up one-on-one where PDK takes the challenge against one man on the far to try to get some sort of advantage back for his team. Especially because, like I said, it seemed as though they're getting a little bit split at the start of a fight pretty much every time, and so it was PDK getting a little too far forward, it was Compton maybe getting a little too far forward. And when that pick comes through, not only do they end up winning the fight, but they also end up getting afterwards they end up picking quite a few people up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important there, and I know PDK could counter there, and MB Compton also just looking a lot stronger on the ball than the Sigma there. I would love to see Battalion. They kind of showed us some off meta comps as we were watching that, and as those maps were going through. I'd love for them to keep trying those off meta comps because it actually seemed to be where they got a lot more value than running that Orisa Sigma or the Ash Genji. Forcing meta just did not seem to work for them, and I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them continue to do that and actually try and capitalize on that a bit more because that map was really close, and I think these maps are going to continue to be really close. And if they can find something to pull that edge out, Battalion could pull this forward.
Yeah, they seem to be a little bit more comfortable playing things that have a little more priority, at least in their minds. Like you said, that wrecking ball looked really good, and even playing just kind of forward pressure in general looked really really nice. When you got Compton into their backline, when you got Mudkip going on that Genji, he was really really strong on that pick as well. So I'd like to see them challenge the positioning a little bit more of Habaneros. When Habaneros were running that sort of sit there bunker, hold the point type style, when they got that set up, it was so hard to break. I don't think Battalion actually broke that position for them one time. It was only two when they were the ones that pushed in, when they were the ones that got the first cap on the point, that they really had any agency. So I want to see tempo increase here for the side of Battalion with those picks that you talked about.
Yeah, and we're gonna be coming into Anubis as our second map. It's gonna be 2CP, lol in chat, please. And we're gonna see some interesting comps here. I think I'd love to see the Pharah on this first point.
Oh yeah.
But I'm curious, PDK kids in the map. Do you think we're gonna be seeing Junkrat on defense?
That was exactly what I was going to bring up. I think Junkrat is rather strong in this map specifically. In fact, actually, we're seeing it already. He's at least on the champ as we speak at this moment. We could see him come out with something like this. I think it's really good for defense, and I don't even think it's bad for offense if you're struggling to break through something like the shield composition we've seen time and time again for Habaneros. If they're trying to break through this initial point and you want something on offense, it might be an option to go to. But on defense here, you already see PDK going to it. It's this comfort pick for him, and I'm happy to see the champion come out first game here.
Yeah, absolutely. The PDK Junkrat, absolutely legendary and well known in the Tranquility community, not just as a meme, but also as a force to be reckoned with. And I think going in here, Waffleman and the side of the Heckin Habaneros are actually, I think, going to read this as they come out with the Pharah, the Pharmacy coming out here to do that bonus damage to him.
I mentioned you got double dive tanked here with the and the or my apologies, and the I can't think of the champion. I don't know why I cannot his name's now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an advantage already for the Habaneros on attack. MB Compton takes down Waffleman though, and Capital takes down Mix Ready. The Pharmacy removed entirely from the equation, and now PDK Kid has all the room in the world to lay that damage down onto the enemy team, putting the pressure on the tanks immediately. And now Trippy Cow and Chimanzi have to back up, have to play around their team. Trippy Cow going to be taken down by Mudkip as Crew trades out PDK Kid, but without that main tank, it's going to be so much harder for the Habaneros to push in here. Waffleman coming back with Mix Ready. The Pharmacy's back in this fight. They have to get value here, but looking like playing around this angle is just not going to be enough for them without the main tank pressure. As the Mr. Trippy Cow comes back, they're going to be raining down that damage on point, but no picks as of yet, as Crew picks up Mudkip, and that might just be exactly what they need, as Crew also takes down Extra Sharp. Waffleman takes out the Immortality Field, meaning that everyone is killable, and Crew with a third, but Capital and PDK Kid, the Junkrat's still alive. They take down the Pharmacy, and now with that Immortality Field and that healing from Baptiste, they might be able to push in here. The Resurrections are going to come in, but now the point is looking very solidly taken for the side of the Habaneros. They commit that Gravitic Flux coming out of MB Compton, and Capital takes down Trippy Cow. And now, suddenly with the tire from PDK Kid getting 2 kills, it looks like it is turning around already in the favor of Battalion. They managed to stave off this first point just barely, as Waffleman is forced to flee.
A risky little play, because if you're losing your Sigma right there, then you end up losing all pressure on the point. You burnt a bunch of ultimates, and you probably lose the point anyway. So really good up from them, playing very carefully, getting that point back. They slowly were able to push off the Pharmacy from the point, able to tap on their button. Now they're showing up for another defense here.
Absolutely, and now the damage coming out of Waffleman is not going to be enough, as Capital's managed to take him down, looking like a monster on this Baptiste, and he commits the window here. That extra damage from that ultimate is going to be more than enough for PDK Kid to force the enemy team, force the Habaneros back, and now Mix Ready having to play so passive, trying not to get taken down for the 4th fight in a row here. And Habaneros, if they don't manage to take this, that's going to be tragic. They're a tick away. They're 9%.
They're bending right now on the side of Battalion, but not breaking.
Oh, and the ult's gonna come out from Trippy Cow. He gets trapped. PDK Kid with a with a 900 IQ trap placement is going to be able to take him out of the action for a second there. Chimanzi, though, with the bomb takes out an extra sharp. PDK Kid trades out Trippy Cow, so it's a brig for a main tank,
PK's
but
down.
Waffle Man is going to capitalize, take down the Ash and the Junkrat. Capital manages to take down the Mercy before being traded out, but it looks like Habaneros are finally going to claim this objective point for themselves as they take down NB Compton.
It's been a back and forth so often here on this point. Number one, it looked really solid for Habaneros on their first push, but that no bend or that bending and don't breaking lose a pair player, but be able to get a couple back here so far from Battalion was really good. But finally, they lose a little bit too much. They get shoved too far back, and they're able to make the actual push come in here from the side of Habaneros and cap that point number one.
Absolutely. And now the Ultimates looking firmly in the favor of Battalion, at least for this first point, so they should not get snowballed here, but Waffle Man has that pocket, has that damage. They might be able to pull something out here
Yeah,
just
barrage.
to try and save this, and that barrage can do so much damage as he goes up and he commits it. The Immortality Field having to be used early, and Sip and Fanta is going to manage to take them down as the Gravitic Flux is going to be committed from NB Compton, and his team is going to follow up on that with reckless abandon as they take down the entirety of the enemy side, trading the Flux and the Bongo for that barrage. And if I were the side of Habaneros, I'd be happy to have that alt exchange.
100%. I mean, that was the push directly after you end up capping the point, and you have a little bit to work with. Not to mention now Waffleman, he switches off the Pharaoh, which loses a little bit of that efficiency on the second point here, and you get onto the likes of Genji. You've already shown the proficiency on that champion. He's going to be able to stack that ultimate really quickly. You get that Dragon Blade. It's a little easier to execute on than that Braca Barrage that got countered so heavily from the side of Battalion in that last fight.
And now PDK Kid, he's so cheeky, looking for this tire position here. He's moving into these angles where it's a lot harder for them to find him, especially with the Genji that can dash in on him and just do so much damage immediately, so much burst damage. And now Mudkip gonna be committing that Bob, trying to win this fight out before the side of Habaneros can even touch the point, and that Bob's gonna put so much pressure on those angles, but now the window going to be committed by Legolots, and Habaneros are also gonna commit the Bob, and now the ult advantage looking like it may have flipped as PDK Kid's tire gets taken down, and the trades are going back and forth. The Genji being taken out for one side as the Sigma is taken down for Battalion. Habaneros have forced PDK Kid into this back room, have forced the entirety of Battalion to move into a situation that is unfavorable for them, but now the pincer is coming out. Chimanzi forced to commit that Gravitic Flux, trying to balance out as the damage is coming from both sides against his team, and Waffleman and Trippy Cow are going to capitalize on that, doing so much damage on that front line. PDK Kid takes down Waffleman, but it's already looking well in the favor of the Habaneros as they push in here, and now NB Compton, sorry, Sip and Fanta swapping over to that Wrecking Ball, just trying to contest here, trying to stall as Capital grabs the Lucio, also just here for the contesting, and it's going to be slowing them down, but the frags are going in the favor of Habaneros as Mixray takes down Extra Sharp. Oh, NB Compton, though, he comes out with the Gravitic Flux, and that's going to be enough to turn it around, I think, as him and Sip and Fanta take down the supports for the side of Habaneros. PDK Kid also trading out as Waffleman gets two, but he is alone on this point. It's just him and a tank and an Ash, and they are going to be taken down as Battalion barely managed to hold on there and win that fight out.
Somehow keeping this together over and over again. They're bending so far, getting pushed back, getting split up, and it doesn't matter. They're able to make the plays happen because of the pressure they come out when at the point. They got maybe one more attack here. They do have the blade to work with on Waffle Man. I want to see them get aggressive here.
Absolutely, and now the tire from PK is going to find two, and there's no support and no Genji left alive for the side of Habaneros. That's going to be more than enough as PDK Kid finds himself a third. The Bob is going to be committed by Crew before he goes down, but that is all that is left to contest that point, and Habaneros are not going to be able to capture point B on Temple of Anubis.
Oh my goodness. You got to give so much credit here, I think, to both sides. PDK on that Junkrat was picking people, putting so much damage on members. You had to pull back, you had to pull pressure off. If Habaneros don't have to play into that, they don't lose characters, they don't lose health bars, I think their momentum is enough to completely shove through point one and point two. But because of all the pressure being put on by PDK's Junkrat, they were able to withstand so many pushes over and over again, and they somehow keep Habaneros, who looked like they completely had that second point under wraps, only to sub 50%.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very good hold from them there. And I've got to say, the ball pick on the
Hmm.
stall, you think of it typically just as a stall hero, just to make that time, let your team come back out there. But two big picks from Sip and Fanta on that defense, on that contest, and that is more than enough when you're playing with those close spawns, and that's just so much damage and potential there. And then the CC coming out from both of them, as well as the Gravitic Flux from MB Compton. That's just really well planned and well designed gameplay coming out from Battalion to hold that second point.
Yeah, I will also give a lot of credit to Heckin Habaneros. I think their tanks played super, super well in that. They, especially when they were holding middle point on point number two, they were able to spread their shields apart. You keep everybody split entirely on both sides to make sure Battalion never really had a great fighting chance until they started getting those picks to come through. And that play did come through from Stiff and Phantom.
Absolutely. And now we're gonna see the gameplay coming out from both of these teams here, running the mirror compositions, and Mudkip and Waffleman have looked so strong on these Genjis. We're going to have to see which one reigns supreme here. The fight is going to be taken in this Mega Health Pack room as Mudkip already coming over, getting the dash and the damage in with the help of the halt from Sip and Fanta, and now PDK Kid in the backline getting pressured down by Chimanzi, but it's not going to be enough as the halts are going to continue to come out with the dashes for both sides, and no picks are being taken here. But the side of Habaneros are being forced back,
down.
and PDK Kid is going to catch Crew trying to rotate back to his shields. And the dynamite coming out, the damage is so strong as PDK Kid claims this high ground for himself. There's no one left to stop him as Capital helps him out, taking down Waffleman, and now it is just the tanks and the supports for Habaneros. And while they get damage, it's not going to be enough against Six, as they are just going to clean up point A really quickly. Battalion here looking super strong on their offense.
That they are. They were able to get a lot of push early on into this one and shove back Habaneros before the pick started coming out. If that pick against Crew comes out a little bit faster, I actually think he gets back and is ready for the defense. But unfortunately, because he got picked so late in that one, they were able to spread everyone apart, and those death timers take so long to get back on point number one here on the likes of Anubis. And so that's really easy cap. 5 minutes of time and multiple alternates ready to work with here on Battalion. They could just snowball this to a victory.
Absolutely, and just that blade window should be more than enough here, but the Bob is also ready for them. The window is going to be committed first, and they are going to counter window as the Bobs come out, and dueling blades as well. And who is going to get the value? It's not going to be Waffleman as PDK Kid takes him down. Chim trades out onto MV Compton, but gets taken down by PDK Kid's Bob. Bob is doing something here as Mudkip is now going to commit that blade, and he gets 3-4 for Mudkip in the backline, and it is going to be more than enough for Battalion to clean up Anubis and just sweep through this map incredibly quickly.
Played entirely around those dragon blades right there. And Mudkips was so much more efficient. That immortality field coming out was just a complete deficit coming out here. And then of course you had to getting Mudkip. You're gonna get to see this play in a huge fashion. This is massive. Gets in, gets 4 kills on the pickoff, and certainly, I mean, it's really tough. The attempt was there from Waffleman to make that play happen, but how do you match this?
Yeah, I think it comes down to commitment there,
Mhm.
and in a lot of these meta comps, it comes down to who uses the commitments first. And Waffleman commits the blade, knows he has to be careful, knows his team is at a serious risk of getting snowballed there. Both teams use their windows. He hears the Bob comes out and he says, "All right, I have to get in there. I have to use my ultimate. I have to counter out the damage that's coming from this Bob." And he pushes in, but neither team had used that immortality field. And so the immortality field is dropped and the damage can just be pressured onto Waffleman, and he just gets taken down so quickly. And then the immortality field, smartly enough by Legolots on Habaneros, he holds on to that immortality field for quite a long time, but it does not matter because they're pressured into such a small space that that blade is going to hit the immortality field. It's going to hit everyone on your team, and that dash is just going to continue to wreak damage and absolutely destroy your backline as he pushes in there. And that's just, it comes down to who hits Q first and who hits Q more effectively. And in that position, it was Battalion who did it, and they did it fantastically.
That they did. And coming off that first point where they had the absolute dominant push. Again, it took them so long on the side of Habaneros just to be able to find any sort of semblance of balance to get into a position they can defend from. Losing a character off the end of that, it just cost them the entire
Mhm.
fight, cost them a bunch of ult charge. And as I said, they just snowballed into that one. Yeah, the Dragon Blade from Waffle almost, like, if that immortality field is a little bit early, a little bit later, something and he breaks it, could have been huge for their team to all that point and prevent all of that from happening. But again, the hero little play coming out there from the likes of Capital dropping that. It really did set up his team for success, and it sets up, of course, PD Kid's fantastic little ultimate at the end there. Or no, Mudkip's fantastic little ultimate at the end there. My apologies.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have to point out PDK Kid did have that bob in the back line putting that pressure down, and that forced out the blade, really. Just putting that extra pressure, putting that extra damage in the back line. It's going to force some sort of commitment from Heckin Habaneros there. Best case scenario, he forces the immortality field, and Mudkip is completely uncontested when he goes in with that blade. Best worst case scenario, he forces out a smaller ultimate. I wouldn't call Blade a small ultimate. Dragon Blade could do a lot of damage, but in that situation, it's a lot less valuable for the side of Habaneros than that immortality field is. And they did manage to pull that out really successfully by forcing that.
Yeah, I thought game number two, especially that second round, that pushing round from the side of Battalion, PDK and Mudkip absolutely ran all over the DPS role. I mean, back and forth, I think, throughout the entire series, we've seen a little bit of mixing between, jumping to Thera, jumping to Genji, jumping to a couple of different things. But that second game, the DPS absolutely dominated from the side of Battalion. And I think maybe that's the key. Maybe enabling PDK and Mudkip to pop off on these picks that they're running, the Ash, the Genji, whatever it might be in their back pocket, and kind of let them roll. And Compton, we talked about it on the Wrecking Ball, his dive potential, pushing back other carries, pushing back healers specifically for the frontliners. And maybe that's the key. Maybe opening up that space for PDK and Mudkip might be the idea here for Battalion coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. The space making was a lot better there. And sometimes, I've played in Trank for a while, and I've played on teams that tend to have slower starts, and maybe Battalion just has a bit of a slower start. They need a little bit more room to get moving, get the ball rolling. No pun intended. But if that's them starting slow and them starting to come into their own in this match, then I've got to be really scared if I'm the Heckin' Habaneros.
I would too. Like I said, heck, the entire time we've been seeing this composition where they're just content, kind of sitting back, sitting in one area, and defending it by all means, which they've been fantastic at when they're able to get that proper setup. Whenever you get them stumbling, whenever you break that stance, whenever you break that little bunker that they've got going, that's when they really start to struggle. They start to make mistakes. They start to get pushed off, and they're not sure when to commit to a full retreat versus committing to a full engage. And I think that's been a little bit of what's costing them. Maybe they're not used to that kind of thing. The question is, do you try to make an adaptation to go against Battalions and you play aggressive, play counteractive, or do you double down? Do you pick even more? Do you try even harder to make sure that this bunker is unbreakable and make sure the Battalion's just going to bounce off?
Yeah, well, we will have to see when we come back. We are going to go to a brief, about 5 minute halftime, and then we will come back to you guys with the second half of this match. It is a first to three, so nothing is going to end soon, but we will be coming back to some fantastic Overwatch in just a few moments. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Overwatch Tranquility. We hope you enjoyed that quick halftime. We are continuing to cover the Battle of Battalion versus the Spicy Boys on Heckin Habaneros. It is 1-1 right now and looking like a fantastic game already. I am Bard, and I am joined today by Rebel Fox. How are you enjoying this game, Rebel?
Really loving it. One of the first series I've got to do here, and it's already proven to be very exciting. Both these teams taking their first losses of the tournament and shown very kind of unique strengths between the two of them.
Yeah, very unique strengths. I think some expected strengths with players like PDK Kid pulling out the Junkrat. But also really interesting to see some players that we got to see last season in Harmony tier, Mr. Trippy Cow and Waffle Man, really bringing it to this Discord tier teams and showing that they have exactly what it takes and that they do belong here. And they are really impressing me so far.
Yeah, I think Trippy Cow has been super good, and Waffle, he's been immaculate, especially when he gets his hands on the Genji and you're able to get rolling. As long as they're not super far on the back foot on the side of the Habanero, they're doing such a phenomenal job of enabling him to get in with those blades, get in and do some really good work. Barring that one immortality field, of course, but outside of that, been really good on the champion. I think the two of them have been some of the best points here for the side of the Habaneros.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side, we've been seeing PDK Kid. He's been pulling out that Ash. He's looked pretty strong. He looked really good on that McCree while it lasted. And of course, just fantastic as ever on that Junkrat. And Mudkip really bringing it to him with the Genji on that second map of Anubis. But I think lagging a bit behind still Waffle Man when you take both maps into account.
Yeah, I feel like perhaps the individual average performance coming through from the Habaneros has been better, but there have just been such good high points from every individual player on the side of Battalion, where you have Sip and Fanta finding some six when you switch over to that over to the Wrecking Ball, Mudkip on that Genji in that second game, PDK, pretty much throughout the series, but especially on the likes of that Junkrat. Capital has been making really good plays in the Baptiste. There's so much to love here on the side of Battalion at any given moment. Not to say that Heckin Habaneros haven't had that kind of star power. It's more so just that it seems like the Battalion is relying really well on a lot of these kind of unique picks and a lot of their players to do some of the more heavy lifting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are also going to see a couple substitutions for both of these teams. Sushi coming back in for Extra Sharp, running that Brigida role for the
Mhm.
side of Battalion. And uh, Extra Sharp looked really strong on that Brigida,
Yeah.
but I don't think Sushi looked bad on map one. So it's not necessarily a downgrade or an upgrade, just perhaps a change in style as we come into this next map. And Vix coming in for Crew, playing that hit scan DPS position, which is going to be really interesting. I think Crew was looking really. And
I think knowing they're coming into something like King's Row, especially when you've got somebody that's really good at the hit scan, you've got such good range, you've got such good alleyways to shoot down, fire down, and show some of that skill. That it's not surprising to see that they're going to make that swap. I don't think really that PDK Kid has had a terrible performance. Perhaps again, it's like you said, a stylistic change here, given the parameters of what they're about to walk into.
yeah, absolutely. And I think PDK Kid versus Vix is going to be an interesting matchup. Vix coming in here, I believe, coming out of Harmony to your last
Hmm.
season. A very interesting game plan here. I'm not exactly sure what their plan is. Sorry, he played for Alta 4 last season. I'm thinking of the season before that. Vix coming in here playing that DPS, and I want to see how he matches up against PDK Kid because Kings Row, we've seen the Pharahs being pulled out by both teams. It definitely is a map where Pharah can be pulled out again, especially on those first 2 points, where you have those really high skyboxes and those fantastic angles around those roofs that you can get over and around to do so much damage. I wonder if Fix is going to be able to match up against PDK Kid if he has to make that swap to counter that Pharah.
I'm curious if that's the case as well, or if again, if he goes to something like you talk about, something like McCree, or if you talk about something like Ash, even, or another one of those snipers to come in to try to knock that out of the air, if that's what he's more proficient at. It's about finding the right style. Personally, again, I don't know whether he'd be able to go to the Pharaoh, but it seems like if you've got something like a bunker, or you've got something where your setup is really more rock solid, you wouldn't like to have the Pharaoh because that puts the risk and puts a lot of power that you're taking out of that potential standstill. So if you've got somebody like that McCree, like that Ash, somebody of that sort, you're able to make that play happen, put pressure onto the Pharah while also maintaining that kind of more solidified little cluster. I'm curious whether that's the case or not, though, because if you challenge in the Pharah versus Pharah, and then you talk about Mercy versus Mercy, and then it's a 4-man versus 4-man.
Yeah, that is actually really interesting because if you think back to Anubis, especially when you think back to that defense for Battalion when they were holding against that pharmacy,
Mhm.
it was actually Capital who was getting half of those picks on that pharmacy duo. He was putting so much pressure as Baptiste onto either that Pharah or that Mercy, while PDK Kid put the pressure on the other, on that Junkrat, surprisingly, uh, that they were able to shut them down on that offense so effectively. So it does also come down to, I think, that Capital versus Legolots duel, where both of them are going to be just as instrumental as their DPS in putting that pressure on the pharmacies as they come into this fight if they're pulled out.
Yeah, and I know, Legolas, if I recall, he plays at least a little bit of Anna and Baptiste, and I'm curious if they're willing to flex around, who is going to play something like the Baptiste to allow the Anna to come in to see if you've got that hit scan, the ability to challenge, especially with that bio grenade, being able to, knock out the healing for Pharah. So if another person's able to get that damage, it sticks. It certainly does. So again, just theory crafting before the game, the idea of maybe putting out a couple of different champions depending on their style seems to be the way that Battalion has really come out, or that Heckin Habaneros can maybe make their adaptation here.
Yeah, and we have seen the Genji coming out of both of these teams. It's going to be coming out again here, but on the
Yep.
offense, actually, Waffle Man teasing us with that May here. This is Scrims Row, a lot of brawl. So I do think Trippy Cow is going to be swapping over to that Reinhardt, and this is a map pick by the Habaneros. And if Reinhardt and if Trippy on Reinhardt and Mix Ready on Lucio is a comfort pick for them, that might actually be really strong coming into a map that they've chosen and that they want to run here, especially if you have that Widowmaker putting pressure down from range and that Genji being able to put that pressure in that backline so that Ryan can really just brawl out of control with the help of that speed boost.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting because Mixed Ready is a really good Lucio player. They're looking to kind of blitz with this, where you have the Reinhardt combined with the likes of this Mei, combined with the Genji, and you can hit from so many angles, and you have such good burst healing with the likes of Baptiste. I'm curious to see if they're just going to go for it right immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. PDK Kid trying to take this higher angle, not let himself be forced out of position. And Waffleman on the May, they really are trying to force this brawl. And now the Halt comes out, but the Reinhardt shield is too strong, stopping them. And the May wall being used so effectively, allowing Mr. Trippy Cow to just swing away and do that damage, getting the first pick onto MB Compton as the immortality fields are traded out. But now the advantage clearly going the way of Habaneros. PDK Kid manages to trade out onto Legolots. The Waffle Man and Chimanzi are just looking too strong. Mudkip finally able to shut that May down, but now it is just the Baptiste and the Genji on the point, but Mudkip
huge
two now, finding Vixel before Mixray takes him out, and it's not going to be enough. 2 is not enough picks to secure this point for Battalion on the defense, and now it is going to be taken by Habaneros.
Yeah, and again, they blitzed it to the point they're able to put a lot of pressure on. PDK can't find really anything on the Ashe for the most part. Actually, just got picked a second time by Waffleman on this May. It's all too easy. They're able to get on top of the point, capture it very, very quickly. And yes, the ensuing fight didn't go absolutely flawlessly, but they do take the point in very quick fashion. And now, because of the way that they were able to proxy off a couple of members who trickled onto the point late, they get such forward pressure here that it's going to be near impossible to stop the momentum onto point number 2. They're almost locked into point 3 here.
Yeah, and that is going to be a bit of an issue. They're going to try for this hold as Mudkip is going to commit that blade, and it's almost going to be enough, but perhaps not. The issue coming out here that he's not going to finish off any of these blows. Vix is going to actually trade and get 2. He takes down Capital and PDK Kid, and Waffleman gets 2 of his own on that May, and now Compton on this high ground. He used that gravitic flux and landed himself up there, but now he is alone and he's not going to be able to do enough to help his team out on this offense.
They choked up so far that it didn't matter. There's so much space for the side of the Habaneros to flee and walk backwards that they weren't realizing just how strong Vix was. And with his ultimate onto the backline, gets a couple of hits there just on his own, and that's more than enough to be able to find a plenty to get on to point number 3 here.
Absolutely, and this is going to be an issue as the Blizzard is going to come out from Waffleman. Capital, using that Immortality Field, manages to stop everyone but Sip and Fanta from dying, but Vix is going to take Capital down and Sushi down in return, and Mr. Compton is going to be frozen up on that point as the point is finally
Oh
capped,
my
and PDK
goodness.
Kid brutally staggered out there.
Oh my goodness. You see why we now have an idea of why Vix is coming into this one, because this super hard aggressive style that they've switched to with the Genji on Vix, Vix ready on the likes of the Lucio, and Mr. Trippy switching over to the Reinhardt. It's just been near impossible for the side of Battalion to stop whatsoever. They have no ability so far to slow them down. This might actually be the first chance they get, and they're almost already halfway finished, or they're over halfway finished now with point number 3.
Absolutely, and this is going to be really, really tricky here. PDK Kid managed to take out Vix, and that is a good first pick that might be enough for his team to really solidify their defense here. It is going to be enough, and now Mudkip, Capital, and Sip and Fanta all coming up on those ultimates. MB Compton really not too far behind either, so the ult advantage might just be wildly swinging back into the side of Battalion here, and this third point is so hard to take normally, especially with the ult advantage. And now without it, Medkip is going to be committing that Genji Blade. He takes down one before getting traded out, but it's going to be enough as Waffleman is taken down without that extra damage. And Vix with the blade, he's in the back line. He's not going to find anything, even with the beat to help him out. MB Compton going to commit the flux. Chimanzi, though, trading out Sip and Fanta, and suddenly this isn't looking good somehow for either team here. Mudkip is going to trade out too, but so is Waffleman. Mudkip gets a third as he pushes it here. No, that's still just 2 for him. I can't read the kill feed, but that's fine because he's going to take Vix off the map before dying, and that is worth the trade there as his team manages to capitalize and solidify on the point there.
That was such a potential play coming out from Vix. If he's able to get that blade to land on the right targets, they had already been backing up. They were on the back foot. They had burnt so many ultimates to hold that last corner that if he gets 2, 3 picks there, that game is probably over at that moment. But they're able to stall him out, prevent that from happening, and they get back onto a couple of the ultimates potentially here. This is going to be a little bit rough because they have Chamsy's ultimate running, but as well as the AMA ultimate here in a second.
Oh, and Trippy and Waffleman are able to take on both the tanks for the side of Battalion, and now the BAP and the Brig, the Blade and the Blizzard aren't even going to be necessary here as the window comes out, and Sip and Fanta swapping that ball, just trying to contest here, looking to maybe try and get some environmental kills. He almost gets one, but it's not going to be enough as he's just swinging wildly around this point. But we have seen the ball be used previously as Mudkip takes down Chimanzi, getting that blade out, does the damage, takes down Vix as well, gets on the high ground and takes out Legalots. PDK Kid taking a dip off the map, not what we want to see, but Mudkip is able to clean that up, and oh, that looked so close for the Habaneros.
Very, very close. They're able to get so deep in. I think the one problem was they weren't expecting things like that to come out. Once again, Compton, or I think it was Super Feta, on the likes of this wrecking ball stalling for so much time that they're able to finally get enough members to push them out. Pick after pick after pick. It's so far to get back to the point. So nice little pushback from Battalion. They still have 2 minutes here on the side of the Habaneros.
Yeah, 2 minutes is going to be more than enough if they can manage to just build up those ultimates and Q smash to get in there. But PDK Kid staying on that Doomfist despite taking a swim off the side of the map there is going to capitalize alongside both of his tanks there, and perhaps getting a little too aggressive up towards the enemy spawn here. But if it's enough, if they can manage to capitalize, oh, Trippy Cow. He swaps over to the Hog, just trying to get that hook right at the end. See if he can catch someone being a bit too aggressive. But Battalion see that and back up with just enough time left.
And now Battalion, they're also, getting their ultimates back really quickly here. They've held this corner so hard very well. You got to break this almost instantly if you're on the side of Habaneros with Vix ultimate, with Waffleman ultimate. Otherwise, you could run into the trouble that everybody is going to have their ultimate out from the side of Battalion.
Oh! A shatter there is so strong from Fanta. PDK Kid getting that first pick. And then the shatter coming down, and that's a clean up that is absolutely nasty coming out of Battalion there.
Yeah, they're able to shut down any potential aggression that would come through. And yes, you do lose the Reinhardt ultimate, but you've got the rest of your ultimates coming up in suit very quickly. Capital's a little ways out. You have Doomfist, you've got the Genji, you've got the Dragon Blade to work with, and soon enough you'll have that Gravitic Flux as well. This is a really good position to be in. Somehow Battalion, they're able to make this hold happen as well. Could be huge for their prospects in the game.
Absolutely, and the window being committed early by Legalots, and it's not quite going to be enough as the Gravitic Flux is going to come out, and he's already used the Immortality Field. He has nothing to save his team as two go down. Chim and Waffleman die early, and the Blade, no, Vix, don't commit the Blade here. You still have time. He's going to be taken down. He only catches Capital's Lucio in return, and they still have Mudkip's Blade to contest here. Just being contested here by Waffleman's Blizzard coming into this fight.
Not to mention, you got the sound barrier coming in soon, and you also have the shatter coming back up. I think this is a fantastic hold already from the side of Battalion. You got to make this work right here and right now. Any pick that you've got will make this so much easier. They're able to get Serpent Fanta.
Oh, and they deflect the Blizzard. Mudkip, that's insane. How do you manage to pull that off as he now pulls out the Blade and pushes in? He gets the damage done alongside his tanks, and they manage to clean this up, and Battalion are somehow going to manage to hold this off of some heroics from their Genji. Mudkip has looked absolutely insane on these last holds. He deflected a Blizzard there and then pulled out his ult. That's 2 for the price of 1. That's fantastic from Mudkip.
I think the momentum was so heavily in favor of the Habaneros that entire round. It was so shocking to see. I think the problem was when you go around those corners, you have to work verticality, and they were not doing it at all. They weren't working the top. They weren't trying to find flanks over anything except for Vix on that first play, which got shut down. And we remember they were literally inches from taking this game for the side of the Habaneros with 2 minutes left on their clock. And instead, Compton comes out with that Wrecking Ball once again, which is the hero pick for the side of Battalion to hold this point.
Yeah, Sip and Fanta pulling out the Wrecking Ball there alongside Compton. And Sip and Fanta, the artist formerly known as Boring, was a ball one trick for a time. So not really surprising for him to be pulling out that ultimate and doing so, pulling out that hero and doing so well with it. I really want to see Waffleman return back to that Genji, and he is going to be doing that. Waffleman, seemingly the only Genji so far in this tournament even, who's been able to really compete with Mudkip on that Genji. And PDK Kid, I think, expecting the Genji to come out from Waffleman here, swapping over to that McCree just to get that extra stun and that extra counter to that Genji.
Makes a little sense to me in this regard. They know that for a fact that they like to play a little bit closer range in this composition, and I don't think the champions perfectly dictate that. But you do have now the McCree, who I would say in closer space definitely dominates over what something like the Ashe can bring in that regard. So it's about getting on top of Vix as fast as possible. That's Mudkip's job. You get on top of Ashe, this McCree is going to have so much more value.
Absolutely, and Vix just trying to hold that high ground with Chimanzi on that Sigma, but Chim forced to drop down to the low ground and contest with him, and now the heavy flank coming out here from Battalion is Sip and Fanta takes down Waffleman, the Orisa with the melee. Interesting kill there coming out for the side of Battalion, and now Mudkip is going to capitalize, taking down Legalots as PDK Kid gets in the backline with that flashbang, and it is just too much damage. PDK Kid pulls out a triple, and the point is securely in favor of Battalion.
Yeah, you force directly into the building here if you're on the side of Battalion, and then you play with a little bit of back and forth between the front and the back. But the big thing is when Waffleman attempts to try for a commitment here, they get the pick off and they completely lose track of the rest of the team. So they commit a lot to the backside, and PDK wraps around the opposite side. He's able to get a fantastic flank on the side of Habaneros. Great point one take.
Absolutely, and that take was so fast that no one built any ultimates by either side here. Capital's going to be the first one with an ult, coming up with that window, and PDK Kid joining him soon with that Deadeye. The damage coming out so much from both teams here. Waffleman gonna commit that Blade, but then gets taken out by PDK Kid, who's gotten 2. PDK looking so strong on these hit scan heroes. He really has reformed from the Junkrat main that he once was. As he pushes in here, the Flux just gonna be used by Compton to finish off this kill and fully capitalize. And now the damage coming out here as PDK Kid takes down Vix as well, and Compton is kill hungry. He's chasing them all the way down towards their spawn.
It is. His momentum, once again, through point 2 on both sides has just been absolutely fantastic to watch. I mean, you know, game number 1, Habaneros had complete control of point number 1 and point number 2 all throughout, and this was really no different. They get a little bit of stopping here for the side of Habaneros against Battalion, but they just run through this team. The one thing is, they don't have the ults on the side of Battalion to just completely take this, and there's quite a few coming up on Habaneros. They might be able to stall them right before 3.
Absolutely. The Blade here is going to come out from Mudkip just to try and force the victory here as Compton trades out onto Chimanzi. The Sigma on Sigma round is going to go in the favor of Battalion, as now the entirety of Battalion are going to just pick off their opposing players one by one, and Vix gonna jump into the drink here just to not be taken down, and Legalots is the last remaining member of his team forced into hiding in his spawn.
Really tough, and they're pushing in so hard. And once again, though, Habaneros, they do have quite a few ultimates to try to stall this push out, and not all that many right now readily available. So if this fight goes well, especially if you get a pick off on a PDK or something fancy to start things off for Habaneros, could be really easy. Gravity Flux already used, though.
Oh, the Gravitic Flux comes out, but the Immortality is there to keep them up, and PDK Kid can use his ultimate just to force them back, not let them capitalize on that Gravitic Flux. Vix's Bob is going to manage to take out Sushi. Bob did something, but Mudkip is going to take him down quickly enough on that Genji, and now Capital with the window, and Sippin' Fanta with that supercharger. That's so much bonus damage that the side of Battalion can harness pushing into this next fight here. It's going to have to be a really close defense here for the side of Habaneros as this next engagement's coming out. The shield rotation looking very strong for the side of Battalion, and now Mudkip just continuing to take this pressure, but Mix Ready and Chimanzi are going to combo together and take down Mudkip as Waffleman commits that blade. He takes down one in the Immortality field, and it's going to be more than enough pressure to force Battalion back here. PDK Kid manages to get two, but his entire team is forced back, and that's the first minute held on this third point for the side of Habaneros.
That they do. They get the fantastic pick immediately onto the side of Mudkip, but the problem is they get nothing out of the side of Battalion. Once again, they're able to fall back, not lose their whole team, and they retain a lot of the ultimate charge they've got. The supercharger gets pulled out immediately, and if they get even one pick, Chimpanzee is gone already.
Sushi takes down Chim, and now Mudkip can pull out that blade. He gets one on Mix Ready, and as the blade ends, he takes down Legalots, and now Battalion, they managed to use just two ults there, a halt and a blade, and they managed to almost assuredly win this map here. And now the ball is going to be coming out alongside the Riveting Flux. We've seen this work wonders in the past for the side of Battalion, but now it has to work out for Habaneros, and it's not. PDK Kid takes down one as Sushi takes down the other, and PDK continuing his rampage on this map here, as now it is just the Hammond from Mr. Trippy Cow left to hold this point, and the stuns are just waiting for him as the damage comes in, as Battalion, in a dominant fashion, are going to be able to take map 3 of King's Row.
Somehow, once again, everybody on the side of Battalion contributing to so many of these wins. And the big thing, again, as I pointed out during the course of the series, they weren't losing much off the back of a lot of these. You're going to see this is, I believe, a massive shatter that ended up getting a ton of people on the back end of it. We'll see this come through, which you got to give a bunch of credit for. But the fight wins coming through constantly from the side of Battalion, and then not losing really anything on the backside of it was humongous.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, both of these teams looking really, really even going into that first map. And now Battalion just seemingly warming up, getting themselves really, really ready uh, as they come into this. And Battalion, again, just continuing to move forward and forward and forward as they push through these maps, uh, really just looking unstoppable.
Yeah, I think Battalion plays a lot more patiently than this side of the Heckin Habaneros. I think Habaneros, they're so ready and they're so available to fight at any time because they're working as a solid brick. They're not ready for the consistent stream of just like team fight, team fight, team fight, things of that sort all the way through. And so the ultimates, they're not using those. Their economy has been pretty bad in certain circumstances. And it's been fantastic from the side of Battalion watching them manage that. Getting so much value from just one, two ultimates here or there has been kind of the undoing for Habaneros in the second and third map.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I would say that just the momentum is deciding this, but Habaneros had so much momentum going into that third point. I think they had well over 4 minutes. They were probably around 5 coming into that third stretch on Kings Row, and they just cannot manage to pull it out. And I don't know what they can change at this point to bring this back around in their favor, but something has to change for them, or Battalion are just going to continue to roll through here with the momentum that they've built.
I think if they're going to continue to push super, super hard with this ultimate driven kind of fighting, where if you've got your ultimates, you're winning really well. And if you don't have your ultimates, you're never winning anything. You have to either A, understand pull back a lot faster on retreats. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing a lot more. I mean, how many times was it on that point 3 there in this last map that Habaneros, they went in for a fight and they would lose all 6 members. And they would have ultimates and they would try to make the fight and then they lose all 6 members. And then they lose a fight and they lose all 6 members again. Like they just never were able to keep people alive on the back end to continue getting ult charged, to keep them out on the map to put some pressure down or anything of the sort, and not giving ult charge over to the side of Battalion. It feels like right now they're not focusing on that at all. I think that's a big way they can start their change. And the aggressive play was the other thing. When they play aggressively, as you saw on the first 2 points against Battalion in that one, it was fantastic. They looked like a team possessed.
Yeah, I really do think that you're right. It comes down to that aggression, and it comes down to perhaps trying to figure out uh, a composition that might catch Battalion off guard and continue to catch them off guard. We are going to see Extra Sharp coming back in here for Sushi, and we're going to see Crew coming back in for the side of Habaneros, not replacing Vix, but actually taking the spot of Waffle Man, which makes me think that double hit scan might be an option here for the Habaneros, but they might also just be wanting to run Vix on that Genji. We saw a little bit of it when Waffleman was on the May on King's Row, and I would not be surprised here if we continue to see Mudkip kind of dominate on that Genji matchup.
Yeah, I think on offense, the Genji is necessarily what's forcing Habanero to take wins in this situation, which is why they're comfortable throwing Vix on something like that, but they need the double hit scan because of the strength that comes out from Mudkip when he's got his hands on the champion. When they have to respond to the play of Mudkip is where they're starting to find some struggle. And even if they do respond to it properly, again, there's no commitment to anything else. Maybe the thought process here is you have double people who can try to commit to Mudkip, or at least one person who doesn't have to necessarily. They can take a lot different of a fight approach than having somebody always have to match. As you said, if they don't run Genji or if they run double hit scan, something along those lines could be big for them.
Absolutely, and I like the Widow here on this first point. It's going to help their team out, but Vix already being taken down by MB Compton, looking so much more comfortable on this Sigma than he did in map 1, and really interesting to see him warm up specifically coming into these fights. Now the Hulk going to be used. Mr. Trippy Cow, they're going to be playing this almost disruption dive comp with the Zarya Winston, really favored in the Asian Pacific region, and Vix finally going to be taking down Mudkip on that Genji. Someone had to stop that man, and Vic steps up knowing he has to be the one playing that Genji, and now the dive is going to be coming out from Trippy Cow on that Winston, but PDK Kid stepping up instead, saying, all right, you have someone who steps up, I'll step up too, as PDK Kid takes down 2. That's 2 huge picks for PDK Kid. And now Vix getting stunned, forced out. He barely manages to escape with the help of that Zarya bubble, but this fight is not going the way of Habaneros.
No. Seems like PDK, Compton, they're doing phenomenal things to try to stall things out. It's difficult to try to bridge directly through this small gap without something like either the ultimate from Zarya or the Dragon Blade. Now, they do have Legolox, who now has to save the Nano Boost for that Dragon Blade, which makes it nearly unstoppable, but they're waiting for Vix to get a little bit more. He's been mildly shut down so far. He got that one good pick into Mudkip, but outside of that, hasn't really found much so far.
Yeah, and really importantly, PDK Kid already has his ult. PDK Kid and Compton already have the Flux and the Bob there. Crew swapping over the Tracer. I'd love to see this, especially with the dive comps. He can put so much more pressure on that Ashe than he can as Widowmaker, which seems counterintuitive, but you get into that backline with that movement. PDK Kid already committing that Bob there, and now just really slow play coming out of the dive comp here.
That is, I think they're being a little patient, knowing the fact that they are down at least a little bit in terms of ultimate economy right now. Mudkip's gonna be close to that blade. Fanta getting close to that ultimate as well, so they have a couple.
Ooh, the window committed from Capital, but now the Primal Rage is going to be committed coming out of Trippy Cow. He manages to take down PDK Kid. MB Compton going to commit that Gravitic Flux, doesn't catch anyone, and now Vix takes down Extra Shard, and Mixer, and he trades out onto the enemy Orisa, and now the Steamroll starting to come out. This snowball effect hopefully coming out here for the Habaneros.
And look at who they were able to bring down early on in that fight. It was Sharp and it was Mudkip who had their ultimates available. And yes, Compton's able to get his out. I mean, PDK was able to get his out as well. Sippin Fanta got to that ultimate, wasn't able to use it. They found the right picks in the right situation. They played off the back of this Winston so well. It's a phenomenal little push, and that's the aggression we've been wanting from the side of Habaneros.
Yeah, and Trippy Cow really knowing his target priority there, taking that Ash down and then juggling those tanks. But PDK trying to stop the dive, swaps over to the McCree, and it is already effective as he takes down Chimanzi coming into this fight here. And Mudkip takes down Mix Ready, and there's just nothing seemingly that could stop the two DPS here on Battalion.
They're just running forward, making sure maybe the car just gets stuck in a little bit of a rough area, trying to get through this gate as best as possible. So now they're going to get pigeonholed. And once again, you still do have to worry about the likes of the Brigitte ultimate. You've got the Genji ultimate as well. And then, of course, the supercharger if they try to get really aggressive. Finally, though, you do have the Blade and you've got Zarya ultimate to be able to work with if you can find the right fight. That is a huge combination of ultimates, especially when you throw in a Tracer ultimate on top of it.
Absolutely, and that Tracer ultimate is going to be
Fancy, though.
really important here, just taking down that back line. But Capital takes down Trippy early, and the fight is already lost for the side of Habaneros.
Yeah, they're losing a little bit. Now, the big thing is they're not overcommitting members like we saw last time when they were on point number 3 on King's Row, where you were losing 4 or 5 members in every single fight, 6 members every single fight. It's one person getting picked, then pulling back a little bit, then working their way back forward. And again, they're slowly trickling in some of this ult. They've got 4 of them to work with, including the Nano Burst, or the Mana Boost, to be able to throw onto the likes of Vix when he chooses to go in. There it is.
Absolutely, and now the blade being committed from Vix, but he runs, dashes straight into the rock coming out of Compton, and PDK Kid takes him down, but it does not matter. The grab pulse bomb is gonna come out here for the side of the Habaneros, and they're gonna manage to secure this fight here. Crew manages to get the dash off right before getting stunned by PDK Kid, and now the fight coming out from both of them is gonna just keep going back and forth. Neither of them can gain an advantage. PDK Kid surviving, but not able to take down that Tracer, and now Vix in the back line pushing into his back is going to be able to take him down, and Habanero's looking much stronger now.
Yeah, perfect little application right there. You can throw the Nano Boost onto the legs of the Genji. You're going to pull full attention from the other team.
Oh, the Flux Blade being committed, and Mudkip gets 3! Oh, Habaneros were looking so strong, and now they're going to be shut down by the ult commitment from Battalion, and Trippy Cow now having to try and escape without getting staggered out. He has his utility, he has that bubble, he manages to make it out, but that is so dire for the side of Habaneros.
Really nice little play. And that's what I was talking about. You use 4 ultimates just to break around the corner here on the side of the Habaneros, which is fantastic. And then you lose to a double ultimate combination. You have to use so much more on Habaneros to win a definitive team fight. I want to see them accomplish more without ultimates. If they're able to get the picks with Crew, like we had, he almost against PDK on his own. If Vix is able to find some Legos, he's able to get a good sleep dart. Those are the opportunities you've got outside of ultimates, because right now I feel like if you're playing the ult-to-ult game, you're not going to win it if you're on the side of Habaneros.
Absolutely, and this ult-to-ult game is not going well as Extra Sharp takes down Trippy Cow. He had to manage to build up that Primal, and now the only ult online with half a minute left is going to be that Nano Blade combo, hopefully being able to be built, but they have the Nano and they have the rallies that come into this, and both DPS ults could be built, so potential snowballing coming.
Yeah, looking actually pretty good for their side in terms of they have a little bit higher ult charges pretty much across the board. The one thing you do have is PDK's ultimate might be a little bit of a deterrent to be able to prevent somebody from coming through. So they got to be a little creative with how they use this.
And they are going to use it, and it forces Trippy Cow to stay in that bubble, which is all Mudkip needs. He manages to take him down, and now Crew looking for a juicy pulse bomb target, but he finds no one as Capital is going to commit the window there, and that's so much extra damage as they come in. The Nano Blade is ready for Vix. He gets nanoed. He commits the blade. The immortality goes up, and he catches no one. He gets whip-shotted back from Sharp and then stunned, and Sharp is just going to do everything in his power to shut him down alongside Compton. Sharp finally taken out by Trippy Cow, swapped over to that Wrecking Ball, but Mudkip now can run wild with a blade of his own. He's going to take down 2 and get a dash kill, and now Trippy Cow alone on that point is going to be taken down, and Battalion managed to hold on point 2 of Dorado.
Oh my goodness, such great play coming through from Battalion. It looked like, especially after point 1, they got a little bit of stall tactic, but finally Habanero, they started to reach the beat. They started to find the fights they absolutely needed to. And after that play had come through with the combination of the gravity with the pulse bomb coming in, I really thought they were going to be able to cap point 2 on Habaneros, but that one gravitic flux, once again coming through from the side of Compton, playing that champion immaculately today, was enough to knock down a lot of the momentum, and they were never able to come back.
Yeah, Compton, again, he's just been warming up on that Sigma as the night goes, and he's just getting better and better. And I don't think with the momentum that he's built up, there's anything that they can do to stop him. So it really just comes down to killing his team before he can kill you. Uh, and that's just not working out for the side of Habaneros here. They're going to keep trying this dive comp. I think their best bet was when they were running the mirror.
I would agree. I think that was at least one of the better compositional choices on their part. I do like that they're going Vix. They have him on the Genji again. I think he played that rather well. Crew on the likes of the Widowmaker is humongous alongside Legolas. So maybe the thought here now is, again, we look at potentially the hit scan coming through from those two. And Legolas plays the Ana really well. You get the potential for the Blade coming in with Vix. I think there's a lot of benefit to having this champion in your wheelhouse. It's susceptible to the likes of Mudkip and even PDK, who right now is hovering the fair. I'm curious if they end up running this kind of thing.
I think they will. The Pharmacy can be really strong in the first 2 points here, and they only have to push through point 2. PDK could immediately getting that pressure down with that Pharah up on this high ground, and it's going to force the entirety of the Habaneros to play back, and it's actually going to really be detrimental to them that they're not running this double shield comp here against this Pharah, and now the damage, again, just completely forcing the side of Habaneros to back up, and PDK Kid not going to be taken down. Mudkip instead taking down Trippy Cow. His crew just is looking for one of these shots. He's just barely missing as he puts the shots in, and this Pharmacy is going to help Battalion have a really strong start on point A.
All too easy. As soon as PDK comes out of the box, he's able to find an immediate knockback, put a lot of pressure into the bit of a bunker they had, and as you said, without the double shield composition to set up the Widowmaker, shut up Legolas, and let them breathe fire into this team, it's so difficult to get that going. So they lose a lot of momentum. It's going to be an easy point number 2 coming out here from Battalion. I'm curious, what kind of changes can be made to this composition? I don't think it's it from the side of the Habaneros to make this one happen.
Crew manages to take down PDK Kid, but he gets resurrected as Mudkip takes down Chimanzi, and Sip and Fanta looking so strong on this Orisa. You know, normally we talk about players getting stuck in Orisa jail, but Sip and Fanta has just been rolling through them all night on this Orisa, and Capital takes down Vix. The support getting revenge on that Genji, and now the alts are firmly in favor of Battalion. The momentum is firmly in favor of Battalion. What can Habaneros do?
I don't know, think about any kind of answers. Again, I feel like without ultimates, it's Habaneros not being able to find the same kind of effect you've got on the other side, especially if PDK is able to run alongside the Nano Blade. It's going to be all too easy for them to just cap this second number 4 or the second point, and they're just going to be able to take the series off the back of that. Habaneros has got to come up with something creative fast.
Absolutely. The sights being used from Crew allow him to position himself in a really good spot there, manage to take down PDK Kid, and that might be enough to actually return the momentum back in their favor. Sharp, though, gets the res, and Mudkip takes down Crew, and now the Flux is going to be committed, and it catches 4. That's insane coming out of MB Compton. The Nano Blade's going to come out from Vix. They have to try and turn this around with his ultimate. He manages to take down the Sigma, but is it going to be enough? He only catches 1, and now the Blade coming out of Mudkip here. He still has that dash as he takes down Mix Ready and drops the Zarya so low. Chimanzi having to play safe here as PDK Kid is still alive with that barrage, but he gets taken down by Legolas, and Chim takes down Mudkip. So it is actually going to be evening out here for the side of the Habaneros. It looks like they might be able to hold this as Chim takes down another one. Capital trading out onto Vix, but Extra Sharp is going to get the res onto that Baptiste. And Battalion, they still want to keep taking this fight. I don't know why. Capital gets taken down, and now Extra Sharp is going to have the pressure put on him, and now Habaneros finally are able to secure a fight win and stop the momentum from Battalion.
It didn't really need any big ultimate for it either. That was one of the first situations in which I've seen a lot of good play come through from them without the ultimates coming up, having that advantage come through. A big part of that was Legolas. Beginning of that fight, found a couple of really pivotal shots to get some good picks, especially for the flank angle that was potentially being set up by the likes of Mudkip and Extra Sharp on that side. So really, really good stuff from them.
PDK Kid gets found out in the flank, but so does Trippy Cow, and now both of them forced into slightly worse situations here. Trippy Cow, though, with that Primal Rage that he can use as he engages if it is necessary, he puts the pressure onto MT Compton, and the barrage is going to come out as well, drops everyone low, but manages to get 0 finishing blows as Vix takes down Extra Sharp, and Crew's going to take down PDK Kid, and it might be time for a swap off of that Pharmacy now as the momentum is starting to go in the favor of Habaneros.
It feels like they have been able to find the same kind of success. We're actually looking at the Brigitte from Extra Sharp. I like him on that much more than pretty much anything else because it's his best character, or at least from what I've seen, that's what he's been finding the most success on. And interestingly, we're actually going to see PDK opt for the likes of the Hanzo. If he's able to find a really good pick onto any of these players, there's going to be massive. It's actually good pressure to try to put onto Legolots if he's standing in open space.
Absolutely, and PDK Kid known for his projectile gameplay. Hanzo, another one of those projectile heroes you get so much value out of. Mudkip taking down Chimanzi. That pressure already being seen from that Hanzo crew, though. Trades out into Extra Sharp, and Vix gets PDK Kid popping that blade. He manages to get two, taking down the tanks for the side of Battalion, and now using a couple ults there. Committed as PDK Kid's going to swap over to the Ashe.
Yeah, they immediately bail on the idea of potentially coming through for anything else. The Ashe is now going to be the option. Actually got brought down immediately by Vix as well, so really unfortunate in that situation. They did burn ridiculous amount of ults on the Habaneros. They only have about half charge on the likes of their Widowmaker and their Brigitte, and of course, Chimanzi, he will have his very, very quickly, but that's the only thing you've got to work with against the Blade and against the Bat Peace Ultimate, as well as, what will be eventually a Supercharger coming through from Sip and Fanta. I think maybe the momentum can actually just win on the map. It's going to be up to Habaneros to try to deny that when they take this high ground.
Absolutely, and now it is going to be a bunker coming out here with a dive comp. Very interesting as Crew gets the first pick onto Extra Sharp. Mudkip takes down Chim again. That grab is not going to be in the fight, but Legolots is going to trade out onto Mudkip, and now, even with the window being used, that blade is not available for their side. Compton takes down Legolots, though. That's most of the healing down for the side of Habaneros, but it doesn't matter. Vix takes down Capital, but trading out main healers, and this is going to go in the favor of Habaneros with that closer spawn. No blade used, though, for Mudkip, and they have both tank ults, so there is a chance here for Battalion.
Yeah, but they've given so much back over to the side of Habaneros. You now have both tank ultimates up on their side. You've got the Blade coming up any second now, and Widowmaker going to be able to have the utility of seeing where this team is going to try to approach them for their final fight, which is all too important to have. And now, even Mix Ready, he's going to be able to have the Brigitte ultimate very quickly as well. No support ultimates here for the side of Battalion. It's going to make their life very difficult trying to round this corner.
Absolutely, and now Compton has to be really careful with that Sigma Shield to shut down the Widowmaker. That extra damage is coming in. The grab is going to manage to catch Capital, but PDK Kid will trade out onto Vix, and Mudkip pop the blade. He gets two. That's crucial as PDK Kid trades out, and now it is just Crew and Legolots left. The two snipers, Ana going down, just the Widowmaker trying to contest the cart here, but Mudkip takes him out too, and it is once again heroics from the Genji as Sip and Fanta takes down Vix. Mudkip still alive, still on this point, looking so strong. The Dynamite comes out, and now Trippy Cow committing that Primal, just trying to force them off the point. PDK Kid is going to help solidify this as the Sig-9 is going to come in, and Battalion are going to win the map and the match on a extremely close Dorado.
Man, how about Mudkip with that blade at the end? I think maybe that's going to be the play that we see here at the last second, but my lord, what a play. Now, it's actually a bit later we're going to be able to see this massive play, but my goodness, the end of that game, being able to use that flux to be able to put everyone out of range for the cart is humongous for their team to find the success and find the win on the side of Battalion.
Absolutely, and I've got to say, both of these teams have looked absolutely incredible running these comps here, and a great showing from Habanero running a bit of an off-meta comp at the end, but really just Battalion building up that momentum as they went, making that game their own as they were going forward, and really just absolutely taking control and winning that game based off their momentum and their alt economy, and that's exactly what you need to do there. The Genji matchups, they looked pretty even on map one. Waffle Man looking really strong on Genji, but Mudkip, once he came into his own on that Genji, he looked absolutely unstoppable.
That he did. So many times it felt like Heckin Habaneros, they almost were trying to force out mistakes and then capitalize on the mistakes coming through from Battalion. And after map one, they caught on and they weren't making those mistakes anymore. They were taking the easy ult economy fights. They were taking the easy pushes. They were putting the pressure onto Heckin Habaneros to make something happen. And that's not the way that they were playing. Yes, you had a little bit of aggression on map number 3 in King's Row, which I thought was really good from them. But outside of that, felt like they kept getting stalled. They kept getting weighted. They were taking only what Battalion was letting them grab all throughout the series.
Yeah, and they had a great idea of trying to take that aggression back with those dive compositions, but they just couldn't shut down Compton on that Sigma. He held so much space in that backline, did not let his supports go down. And of course, the DPS duo of PDK Kid and Mudkip just looking unstoppable at taking down both of those tanks as they tried to dive in there. I can't count the number of fights in a row, even when they were losing, that Mudkip was taking down Chimanzi first on that Zarya. Like, Zarya should be a natural counter to the Genji. With that beam, you can't deflect it, you can't escape. You've got your own personal shield there that you can stop and makes you stronger. And yet, Mudkip just consistently taking down Chimanzi there. So, really flashy DPS gameplay.
Yeah, we're gonna get a chance to take a look at a gameplay where we're gonna see them, attack the point. This is the jump in on the backside of this. Yeah, this is the whole match coming through. And like I said, as we've seen all throughout this, it was the different picks coming in, and I think all of Battalion whole roster, despite the fact that we talked about Compton, we talked about Mudkip, we talked about PDK Kid, their whole team had these moments of bright spot where they were absolutely needed to make some sort of massive play. You saw a couple of times sipping on a couple of times, swapping over to the likes of Wrecking Ball, having a couple of those big plays on a wrist. I think point number two, or trying to take point number two here on the final map. He had like 3 kills on his own, pretty much on the Orisa, which is almost unheard of on something like a shield-based hero. It's phenomenal stuff. And then their supports also putting in a work as well. Had a couple of individual plays. I think Sharp was a little bit silent in a couple of the instances, but it was nothing outlandish, and everybody on Battalion completely contributed to the likes of the win.
Yeah, Sharp getting the unfortunate position on support of having to be the mercy pocket and kind of letting your Pharah shine, letting your DPS really take a lot of the credit for you, but really nothing to scoff at on that Brigida, looking absolutely incredible, keeping themselves and their main supporting Capital alive numerous times on those engagements, and Capital and Sushi as well, looking so good, doing that extra damage on the Baptiste. The utility from that Brig was so strong, and I really don't envy their opponents as Battalion move into the final for this preseason tournament.
Not at all. From what I saw, not only did they have really good individual play across their entire team, but their team play was well coordinated. I think that was best epitomized when you look at. I think this actually right here on the extreme was the play that had come through. When you talk about that second point when they were going in on Anubis, and they were able to shut down the blade coming in from Waffle, and they were able to make their own with Mudkip work in such better position along that, just because of again it was actually Capital's little immortality field that kind of bought that time. The team was ready for what the engagement was. The call was super clean, and then they rely on Mudkip's individual dragon play to help win that fight. And that kind of combination of dangerous threats is not something that you could really take lightly coming into a final.
Absolutely. We're gonna have to wait and see how they manage uh, to to really come into their final performance next week. They're gonna have to wait and see if they can continue to pull off this fantastic winning streak, only dropping one map as they go forwards, or are Battalion going to finally be bested as we go into this final? I have been Bard casting for you tonight. You can find me on Twitter at OWBard. We have had the wonderful Juke on production for us. You can find him on Twitter at JukeCasts. Rebel, go ahead and sing your own praises for us for a moment there.
Yeah, I've been Rebel Fox. You can find me on Twitter at the underscore rebel underscore Fox.
Absolutely. All right. And we have had the pleasure of casting this Discord tier semifinals for you. We will see you guys next week with the Discord tier finals, which will also be cast over on OW Tranquility Twitch. Have a great night, everyone. Play some fun Overwatch and remember to be good people.